A lot of people had tried to do Mahabharat, it had not worked, even including Star. They tried to do Mahabharat with somebody else, that did not work, then they came to me. Gita is not about God, it's about way of life. When I'm talking to Arjun, what is he telling him? That you need to believe in yourself, just get up and do what is right. We belong to these stories. Yeah. These stories have been there for thousands and thousands of years. It's not like they are going to be relevant. We will be relevant and irrelevant in time, but these stories will always be relevant. As you go deeper into the Mahabharata and you read every aspect of it, like I can talk about every character and every character's personal take. Why would a Gandhari tie her eyes? Is it in defiance or is it in submission to her husband? Because Arjun never went there to get Draupadi. Starting point. He was challenged that if there's anybody who can do this task, if you remember.
Yeah.
Why did Dashrath give 2 boons to Kaikeyi? I got very intrigued with that. Why would you, if I'm happy with you, will you give me 2 boons? That's how I started to think about, okay, so fine, where did this boon go in? Every individual's journey, just like their thumbprint, is different. And it has definitely made me much, much more spiritual.
Darling 3D Diwali deals. நீங்கள் வாங்கும் ஒவ்வொரு பொருளுக்கும் 360 deals.
No compromise. உங்க சைடுலயும் எங்க சைடுலயும். It's a GT promise.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
MCR Pure Cotton Club, formals and casual shirts.
Hello, Siddharth Tewary. Welcome to Galata Plus. It's very nice to talk to you because we are having a moment with mythologicals on the big screen. There's Mahabharat Narsimha that just came. There's Ramayan that's being made. It's highly anticipated. And there are also offshoots of myths like Kalki, let's say, which take little bits of, from Mahabharat or Ramayan or something like that, and then make their own story. We've had Hanuman, which is another story. So this seems to. Did you anticipate this happening at some point?
Oh, honestly, not at all. Because for me, I never thought about who's going to do what and whether this becomes a trend or a destination, or I had no such thoughts only. For me, these were stories that completely consumed me.
Okay.
I started with, it's not like I even started thinking that, oh, one day I will tell the Mahabharat story, or I'll tell the Ramayan story, or I'll tell Radha Krishna. I never thought of any of this, and neither I thought about any trends.
Right.
I just wanted to tell the story, and with Mahabharat, as I started reading it, I started realizing it's a story for me. It's like the world of characters. Every character in our Indian story is internally conflicted. There is tremendous amount of value that you get through understanding them, exploring them. So I was just consumed in this world of Indian stories, and I never thought about it being a trend. Like, people do tell me this, that it's now, but for me, I've been doing it for more than a decade. I've been doing this, so it's only out of love, and it's not out of any other reason at all.
Right. So let's go back to Mahabharat, this is something that you did for Star Plus, and at that time it cost 100 crores. So it was like a very, very big affair. One, what made you say, I need to do this? And two, given the fact that a lot of the TRPs are being generated by soap operas, did you face any resistance? Will this work? Will this not work? Did those discussions happen?
Yeah, a lot of them, because it was a story of the Mahabharat. It is not a normal story. When you write a story and you make a story, they're two different things.
Right.
And especially when it's called the Mahabharat, it's not something that I always say you get up and you decide and you can just make it. It requires tremendous amount of dedication, understanding. And in the world that we are, and television, and it's a long format story, and that time, a lot of people had tried to do Mahabharat, it had not worked, even including Star. They tried to do Mahabharat with somebody else, that did not work, then they came to me. And that's how I got into it. So it's not like I decided to tell the story of Mahabharat. It's just that when I was asked that, would you like to tell the story of Mahabharat?
So they came to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Vivek Bahl, who was the head of Star programming, he called me because he said that, I like one of the shows that you're making. It's called, and I like the way you characterize, and I like your characters. So I think you should think about making Mahabharat. And I was like, really? Because I had just started. I was just a small boy who just had dreams of telling stories. I did not have any other thought at all. It was just about, telling stories. And when he told me, and from there I started reading. I also had grown just like us, seeing snippets of the old Mahabharat, and you really think that they are cult stories and classics have been made, and you also question that, okay, fine, but it's already been made, so why does one need to make it again? That's a very natural question that comes to you,
Did you ask that question
To myself, yes, yeah.
to yourself?
Yeah,
Or did you ask
because
the question to the person that approached you from Star Plus?
oh, definitely. I wanted to understand why are they wanting to make the Mahabharata.
Right.
But I feel that, it took me. See, broadcasting networks operate on very different principles. Their thought processes and the reason why they tell a story, because they've got a good understanding of consumer data and all that is
Yeah.
there. But for Mahabharat, I think it was done by Mr. Uday Shankar primarily. I think he was the one who felt that this generation needs a Mahabharat to be made, and they were looking for somebody who could make it, and they were trying out some other people, and I landed up from somewhere. But that actually not just changed my journey, it just changed me as an individual, because I had no idea about Indian stories. Whatever we hear, read, you know, family and some shows here and there. That's all I also had learned about Mahabharat. But once I started reading it, once I started understanding it, once I started going deeper, I realized that these are not stories that are of the past. They are so relevant today. I had so many questions in my mind. I'm a very curious kind of a person. I like to ask a lot of whys as to why this happened. Why would this character do this, or why would anybody behave in a particular way?
Yeah.
Why was this being written, and how is it relevant in today's times? And I could find tremendous amount of relatability, tremendous amount of joy in understanding them, visualizing the worlds, creating them. That I slowly understood that these stories are, it's like, we belong to these stories.
Yeah.
These stories have been there for thousands and thousands of years. It's not like, they are going to be relevant. We will be relevant and irrelevant in time, but these stories will always be relevant. You have to tell them in a way that today's youth understands, and that's what I did.
What was the show that you were making then that made them say, listen, this guy can be entrusted with the Mahabharat?
I was doing this story called Agle Janam Mohe Bitiya Hi Kijo. It was the first story about a rural India story.
Okay.
It was about a very poor family who can't afford to eat,
Okay.
and can't afford a single meal, and a story of a girl there, how, to what extent does she go to take care of her family, and where she gets sold. It was a story about, because there was a social issue in our country even then, that girls were being sold, because of poverty.
Poverty,
So
yeah.
it was based on that insight. So
And the way you told that story
Yeah.
made them say this person
Yeah,
is did
exactly.
you ask them what is it about the story that you liked? What about my storytelling skills did you like?
So initially, actually, after, because I didn't even know Vivek for a very long time, I didn't even know him. Just like, it's not like he knew me, so he called me. He just saw my work and he called me.
Yeah.
There was nothing else
Yeah,
to that.
yeah.
And then quite a few times I used to ask him, so acha, so why? What did you really see in that show? And then he told me this point, that I like the way you characterize them, because your
Okay.
characters were real, they were believable. Because I always feel that situations in life create conflicts. Right or wrong is subjective. It's about whose story you're telling, and how do you, and whose point of view you're driving the narrative from.
Yeah.
And then, you just shift the camera, the other character seems perfectly right. So that's exactly how I wrote that show, as in, like, we as a company, we approached that story, and I think that's what worked. And I don't know really. I think I always asked him
No,
that.
it's always good to kind of get into this, right? Because it's you also say that it changed you as a person.
Yeah.
How did it change you? How did reading the Mahabharata change you as an individual?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing, because in the beginning of Mahabharat, when someone is asked to that, can you make the Mahabharat? So you are like, okay, so you're talking about the Mahabharat. And for me, it was just a new production company which has started a few years back. And for us, it was very, very challenging on the making front of it. But more importantly, it was something that it just happened. I just kept, as I started to go into it, I read in the beginning of the Mahabharata. I still remember that was actually the first question that came to my mind, because it says that what is found here may be found elsewhere. What is not here is nowhere. That quote in the beginning of Mahabharata in Sanskrit uh, made me think, what is it trying to say? What is found here may be found elsewhere. What is not here is nowhere. Then I started meeting up with learned people, researchers who have worked in this space, and started asking them questions about what does this mean, you know? So no human emotion, no dilemma, no story point, nothing that you can imagine in the world is not here. Everything is here. What is not here is not in the world.
Right.
So I said, how can you make such a strong statement? You know, how does that mean? So then it's like, okay, then I got deeper to understand that the Veds were written. As always, nobody's interested in reading stories of or wanting gyan. So eventually, you know, Vedas, you wanted a story that he could write so that it consumes and tells people in an entertaining way about the story of the Vedas, about way to live life. So there is a tremendous amount of learning that I thought, oh, this is the reason why it's been written. I thought this is the purpose behind it. That means every story needs to have a value in it. Why was this story point even necessary? Not just characters and not just the reaching point of good over evil victory. All that is there. That anyway is a narrative structure. But if you go deeper, you will see that there is much more that these stories of our country are trying to tell you. And as you live them, there is no other way it will change you. There is no other way. There is no other way.
So tell me something that changed in you.
No, just the way I look at things now, you know, it's very different than the way I was. I was this young boy from Calcutta who just grew up bunking school and watching movies and always wanted to come to this city because this was my destination. I knew from my childhood, you know, and I just wanted to be here. I did not know anybody in this city. I had no idea about and no connections from a family standpoint in Bombay at all. But I just wanted to tell stories, and I was so mesmerized with this world that I came here. And for me, it was, as you go deeper into the Mahabharata and you read every aspect of it, like, you know, I can talk about every character and every character's personal take. Why would a Gandhari tie her eyes? Is it in defiance or is it in submission to a husband? You know, if you look at it in era-wise and if you look at the details of the situation as to how the story has been written, you'll understand that Bhishma went with an army to for the proposal of marriage, you know, and that to a kingdom which was very far, you know, and a smaller kingdom. So it teaches you about, you know, how you can stand for your own self. It teaches you about so many things about from Krishna philosophy. You know, everything that we showed is whatever. Like, why do I say Krishna is my favorite character? Because when we made the Mahabharata, whatever we were learning, how did we put that across to the people?
Yeah.
So we use Krishna. So whatever was the learning is what Krishna used to say in the show. And that's how we sent the message of whatever we learned. Me as an individual changing, I think I had to first let to know who I am. I think Mahabharata first will make you understand, and all these stories primarily, as to you try to get to know about who you are, and you know, you try to understand yourself better. Because how many mistakes can you make in your life to understand all of it? You know, you learn from others' stories, you learn from others' mistakes. That's what Chanakya also has said. So I think there is a, once you go deeper, that's why I say these are stories that have been, you know, these are not our stories, you know, we belong to these stories because they tell you way of life, they tell you things to do, they tell you how to be happy, they tell you about every human conflict. So I think it's the most beautiful thing that our country, this is our soul, our base, our core. And I am really, really happy that I could give so many years of my life and going forward, many, whatever I can do in this space only.
You know, who am I is a very big question.
Yeah.
Who you know, that's
Yeah.
that's not an easily answerable question.
Yeah.
But you brought up the topic of Gandhari, and one of the things about many of these stories is that when examined today, there are people who raise questions about them, right? It's like, why would somebody do this? Why would somebody do that? For example, let's take the fact that Arjun goes and wins Draupadi's hand in the Swayamvar, and he brings her back, and then she now, due to whatever circumstances, she becomes a wife to all the five brothers. There are many people who say this is a very anti-feminist kind of a thing. There are some people who say this should not be taken literally, but in an allegorical sense. How do you see something like this?
Whenever I look at these as very important points, because you are telling such an important story, and these points somewhere, it's your interpretation.
Yeah.
It's not like you're just making a documentary. So it's very important for...
That is that's your interpretation.
Yeah. It's like, when you read something or you read anything, any text or any story, at the end of it, when you're supposed to make it, it has to be your interpretation. It's not a documentary that you're documenting.
Yeah.
And these stories have not been written with that purpose. They are poetry. You read poetry and you interpret it your way. So Hinduism, primarily the Mahabharat or the Ramayan are verses.
Yeah.
When you read a verse, whether it's the verse of the Gita or the verse of the Mahabharat, what you learn from it is what you depict. So when I reach a story point like this, I try to go to the roots of it.
Okay.
Because Arjun never went there to get Draupadi. Starting point. He was challenged that if there's anybody who can do this task, if you remember, then over here, they were in exile, and he had to do it for a reason. Yes, he went and did his job. Then, of course, we questioned every aspect of it. They told their mother, we didn't follow what was shown earlier, as in like, normally people have just depicted what has been written.
Right.
But what I've always done, and I think that's what's important, is why did it happen?
Yeah.
Why was it important? Why did she just turn around and say that, just divide, and the kids turn around and said, okay, we'll just divide.
Yeah.
In today's context, it does not happen. When we were growing up, our parents would tell us just do it, and we would do it. But today's generation will not do it. They will want to know why.
Yeah.
What's the reason behind it? So what to me, what was important is, of course, Arjun was completely taken aback. So were the other brothers. Nobody is normally, it's not a normal situation. That is where Krishna comes in. And as per the Mahabharata, also Krishna comes in. And Krishna basically says that there are various versions of it. Again, our country, language changes, versions evolve. It's like, versions keep happening. But at the core of it, Krishna gives them the philosophy that every action, has a deeper consequence in life. Okay? So you need to just flow, live with this, and see where this goes. And Krishna gave the whole division of every year to every year. So it's such an important aspect that you should look at it not from its relevance to everyday society today. I feel that you should look at it from what the situation was then. At that point in time, they felt this is the right thing to do for their family. Because if you look at their family's journey, where did they come from?
Yeah.
They lived they were born in the mountains. When they came back, they were tried to be killed in their childhood. The mother wanted the family to be together. There are different versions where this was a way of life also in that point in time. So there are various versions to it. But when you show it to today's viewers, you have to be very sensitive about what are you trying to say through it. Because people take it very seriously. So I have tried to show it as primarily characters feel their emotions, because not Draupadi, when she's told that, okay, fine, you'll be divided, she can't just be very happy with being divided, right? As in from the way it has been written. So primarily her conflicts as to what she felt, whether it was right or wrong. And in her journey, if you look at the Mahabharat story, at the end when she goes for the last walk, she always genuinely loved Arjun. And she kept her devotion, her love to be genuine towards Arjun as per the Mahabharata text. So I just keep looking at where the story actually started from and where does it culminate, so that I can give it the right take, which is relevant to today's society. So that's the way I have approached every story that I've told.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you say that, because every story we see the event, but you're saying that we go beyond the event and into the psychology of the character, which is why that's fascinating. Because when I was younger, I had I won't say problem or issue or something like that, but I always wondered, because as kids we often rebel against our parents. They say do this, don't go to a movie, don't do that, study well, whatever it is. But there is a certain age where you start you want to rebel, show that you're your own person, you can't control me. And then you hear about Lord Ram, and he's his father says go to the forest for 14 years, and he says okay, and then he goes. And you're like, sometimes you just think about what psychology would somebody be in, to what state of mind would somebody be in, because we don't hear about Was he shocked? Was he surprised? Was he like, what are you saying that? But no, because there are different versions, like you say, and different versions have different ways of approaching this.
Yeah, I'll tell
So
you. I'll tell you my take on it.
what is your take on it?
With Srimad Ramayan, after Mahabharata, I was extremely curious.
Just to interrupt,
Yeah, sorry.
what is the source that you went to?
So so when we do a Mahabharata or any story of our country, because we are talking global, because the broadcast
Right.
is going across the world, it's very important to be authentic.
Yeah.
And when I say authenticity, it basically means that, we have a research team.
Yeah.
So like for Mahabharat, we had the Mumbai University head Madhavi Narsale. She is a researcher in this space. She spent her life doing it. And we'll get the researcher, then we'll go down to the source. Like for Mahabharat, there was this critical edition that was written because the Bhandarkar Institute in Pune had taken out a critical edition, where they researched some thousands of books across the whole Southeast Asia and said, okay, fine, this is what we think
Is the
is the most trusted source. So for every story that we do, we basically look at research very deeply to understand which book are we following.
Yeah.
So like if we are doing the Ramayan, then it's the Valmiki Ramayan. But today we are talking mass television.
Yeah.
It's the mass format. When doing a mass movie, you need to be very conscious about what the mass perceives you as.
Yeah.
Similarly, in this also, we would look at the Valmiki Ramayan and the Tulsidas Ramayan.
Right.
Because there are certain portions, because it's not something we're doing for the first time.
Yeah.
There is and that's the beauty of it. People already have the image of Ram in their minds.
Yeah.
People already have a Krishna image in their minds. So what you're telling me a story where I already think I have a preconceived notion. It's not a new character that's coming and I have no idea about it.
Yeah.
So for Ram and the eras were different. The Mahabharata era, you look at the way it's been written. Gods used to move around as friends. Krishna was there with them, moving around as friends. And they were not living on earth as gods. They were living as humans. They went through every human conflict. And that is what the learning is. They are written for that purpose. Why was this story written? Why did Dashrath give 2 boons to Kaikeyi? I got very intrigued with that. Why would you, if I'm happy with you, will you give me 2 boons? There has to be something more in it. That's how I started to think about, okay, so fine, where did this boon go in? What is Raghukul Reet Sada Chali Aaye? What does that actually mean? Why did Ram actually have to do this? That he had to leave and say, okay, I'm going because of my father's call. But was it just his father's call? Because he was the king who gave a promise. Because that the promise was given at a battle. And his name was not even Dashrath. His name was Raja Nemi. He fought a battle where he rode the chariot in 10 directions. And in such a way, that's why he was called Dashrath.
Okay.
And that's how we went to the core of the story. So the day you are given a name because of your valor and your wife saves you from dying, that's what Kaikeyi did. She put her finger and that's the whole story about what she did to save Dashrath. So Dashrath was so happy with her that he gave 2 promises. And she said, I'll ask you whenever I need to. So something that happened 20 years back, when someone, 25 years back, whatever, when someone turns around and asks you 25 years later, remember that promise that you had given me 25 years back, are you going to fulfill it? And then your son, who's about to be the next in command, because the world at large is important, it's not like you're running a kingdom, So if a king has to always rule and by an example, when you are a ruler, your life is not just yours. You rule as an example for society. Because if the king that's what my learning is, that if you are a leader of any nature, leader, king, whatever you do is what everybody looks at you. Because what you do sets the example of things going forward.
Yeah.
So for Ram, at a stage in his career, in his journey, where he gets to know about the past of his father, made this promise to the mother who has actually brought him up. He was very, very close to Kaikeyi. So I get into these human emotions about what made him decide that, yes, I will do. What is this Raghukul Reet? Is it his own belief that I'll do it for my father, but because the word for my clan is Raghukul Reet. He's not talking about Dashrath Reet. He's talking about generations before Dashrath. So there is And that's also a story. If you go 6, 8 generations before Ramayan, there are the Raghu story. There's a lot of stories
Yeah,
that are there much before Ram comes, because Ravan was there for 10,000 years before Ram came.
Yeah.
Aranyak story is there. There are so many stories that are already written. So Ram stands at a point of Dharam Sankat. I think everything about Indian history, and I call it history, I don't call it myth anymore, because I feel these stories are so real. How can they be, mythological, But whatever people call it, it's fine, The words have come in over the years to us. And so for me, every time Ram or any characters or anything in Indian history is all on a Dharam Sankat, where both sides are right on one side, and that's what leads to debate. That's how people start thinking. That's how people cross question. And then, as per the mediums, if you're writing a book, you can give an interpretation which is very different. If you're doing a stage theatre show, you can give a very different interpretation. If you're in the mass space, you give a very different interpretation. So I think this is, but primarily at the core, it's about Dharam Sankat. It's about choices that you make. It's about being aware of your actions. I think that awareness of your actions is what, in a way, dharma is. It's not about good or bad, is what I feel.
So Ram goes to the forest in order to, because he understands that his life is not his alone, he's got to set an example. And this is something that is also, because other people are going to follow what he's doing. Now, this is how do you reach this? So do you debate with your writers?
Oh, a lot of it. Anand Neelkantan was an important part of.
Yeah.
He is me, Anand, Vinod Sharma.
So you get
hours. Yeah. So what we do is first.
Just to interrupt.
Please,
so you said that there was a research team. So they give you the material.
Yes.
Once you get the material, is when this starts.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the process in a simpler way. So when we start telling it, what's most important is, if you're like Ramayan, since we're talking about it, or Radha Krishna, or where do you start from? How do you tell this story? It's not like it's
huge.
Preface and open scene 1. What's most important is, why are you telling a Srimad Ramayan today? How is what is so unique about your how do you see it? So once you read. For that, you need to have material. And for that, you need the right people who exactly understand the way. So I've always worked with people, and I've got people who are very aligned to this purpose, who live these stories. So to give you a lot of material, read this, read that, see this, see that, this is written there. Then we meet on understanding, okay, so what is it trying to say? Yeah, it's written. It said, there is something called the subtext of what the text is. And these stories are all about subtext.
Yeah.
It's not only about the text. And the subtext is variable. You can think about it whichever way you want to. So we do a lot of discussions on just to understand the take, as to what is the take, how are you going to go about doing it. Then it comes to, where are you going to start from. For that, you need a lot of chapters to be read, hours and months of discussions, to coming to a point, okay, yeah, fine. So this is the way we look at Kaikeyi today. This is the way we look at Dashrath today. Because you have to give them today's lens. Today, when a viewer is watching them, they need to relate with the father's emotion.
Yeah.
It's not, I've never written stories of gods, honestly. Because if they're gods, then I can just pray to them.
Yeah.
But they're taking human form, going through every human conflict, So then we should tell them, as humans in that world. Of course, they had superpowers, and of course, they have come down for a purpose. But the emotions have to be taken in, because without an emotion, there is no story. So we get to the emotion, as to what's the emotion that we are trying to say. How do we get that emotion right? And that emotion is what the viewer connects with. Because for me, it's important that viewers watch it and take home what I'm taking home, or what we are learning. I think that's the joy in this creation. It's entertainment, but with a very clear messaging. Because over the years, so many people over the years have told me, I've seen Mahabharat, something like this changed in me, something like that changed in me, I've understood what is love all about. And various, I've seen people and I was also quite surprised, honestly. I'm just this boy, as you see me. I just wanted to tell the story. As I started to get this kind of feedback, and I started seeing that, these stories have this kind of impact on others.
Yeah.
It's actually making them think about their lives, And I started meeting up with people, I saw the popularity of my actors. And every time any actor is popular, I'm very happy, It's finally your product, right? So then it slowly started making me think that, what you're doing you're enjoying, but the purpose is far bigger.
Yeah.
So after Mahabharata, I started telling only primarily, stories of Indian history, whether it's Porus or Radha Krishna or Srimad Ramayana or Mahakali or Shani. So I got into every
Razia
aspect.
Sultan or
Razia Sultan
Yeah.
also, then Shiv Shakti, Veer Hanuman. So primarily in the space of Indian history where, I'm able to give, because it's really exciting is all I can say. But the effect on these stories for our new generation, I feel it makes them very strong. I feel these stories, our grandmother used to sit us and tell us, they used to see something naughty doing. If you're doing something which is not correct, they would tell you in the evening, listen, come here. And they'll tell you one story from the past.
Yeah.
And then they will tell you, okay, so this is the thing that you learn from it. Agli baar ye mat karna, do this, don't do that next time, okay? So they just give. So all those thoughts started to come back to me, and just one thing led to the other, and I just kept telling them. That's all I did.
So, personally speaking, has this journey where you get one of the epics
Yeah.
or get Upanishads, wherever you're getting your material from, like all these things, right? Let's leave aside the pure historical things like Horus and which are documented by other people. Let's talk about the ones that
That's
are
so right. I'm saying,
Yeah.
you know know a lot. Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about these, right? Now, like there is a there are people who wrote these. Then there are other people, like you mentioned, Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, but then Tulsidas wrote another Ramayana. Down south, Kamban wrote a
Anand
version of
Ramayan
the
is there.
Ramayana. So there's-
Anand Ramayan is also there.
yeah, so there are lots of Ramayans, right? So there is no one. Depending on the region. In fact, recently I saw a movie called Paradise set in Sri Lanka, and there they talk about the Sri Lankan version of how Ravana was there and what was different, and how Sita drove a chariot, and things like that. Which
there are
we
lots
don't-
of stories.
there are lots of stories
Yeah.
like that, right? Now, when you get deep into this and start analyzing the psychology, has that made you a more spiritual person or a more religious person? I usually, you don't have to answer this question if you think it's too personal.
No, it's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
No, it definitely makes you a very spiritual person.
Okay.
And being religious, I think, is your form of expression. Because,
Right.
and I think somewhere you get to spirituality through religion. Somewhere I feel there's a journey there. It just doesn't, you straight away don't start having, you reach there. I think every individual's journey, just like their thumbprint, is different. And it has definitely made me much, much more spiritual. As in, I've also learned, like I was saying, the most important thing in life for me is to know who I am.
Yeah.
I think that gets answered very well, because you're constantly seeing these many stories and constantly thinking, why did the father do this? Okay, why did Bhishma? What is so strong about this person? He took an oath that time and he stood by it for another 150 years.
Yeah.
And just for a word, when he knew something is wrong. So from a today's lens, you start to see that, if you give promises, whether it's Dashrath or whether it's Bhishma, see where it goes.
Yeah.
So somewhere you should be very conscious about the promises that you make. Because once you make it, you have to, and you want to live by it. If you don't want to live by it, you can make as many as you want. But if you want to live by them, then you should think through the repercussions that could happen.
Yeah.
So I think these stories, somewhere once you keep doing them, or you reading them or watch them, I feel it definitely connects you spiritually. Because Gita is not about God, it's about way of life. When I'm talking to Arjun, what is he telling him? That you need to believe in yourself, just get up and do what is right. For you, I am there. You just go and do your actions, but not for yourself. Because if you keep thinking about your own self, my own future, my own this, these stories are constantly telling you what I have learned. That's what makes you spiritual, right? Somewhere, what is spirituality? What does it actually mean, and what does it entail in my everyday life? It's about just keep doing in different ways, in different stories, in different ways. But at the core of it, it will be about you just keep doing what you do for others.
Yeah.
For you, I am there. But the moment you do a business for others. You're doing this podcast, we're doing it for others to watch it. They will learn something. It's a good thing. It'll help in adding value, in doing things. It will eventually generate revenue.
Yeah.
Revenue will come so that you can do more of it. If the purpose only is revenue, then I don't know. But whatever I have learned is that, you need to be very clear about the purpose of your actions, as to why you're getting into what. And earlier I would just want to do tell a TV show, right? You want to tell a story, bigger sets, bigger spectacle. Now it's about silence. Yeah, just sit down, think through why you're doing it. Why are you here after 18 years? Where is this going to go? And these things have all happened because of these stories. They wouldn't have happened otherwise. I meet so many people in this industry, and I know how everyone's world has been, and mine has been very different. I've had a very different journey.
So let me tell you what I think of why this podcast is happening. It's a very similar thing because forget the viewers, how many people are going to watch this, how long they're going to watch this, forget all that. But this is primarily, at this point, all I know is that I am talking to someone who has done something, and it is very interesting for me to get into their mind space and understand why they did that, how they did that. So it is for me a kind of information gathering because it is like, I think information is the most precious resource. So why someone does that, how they thought through it, did you go through some ups and downs, what were some of the life events that happened? These are all things that I think can, as much as the epics or whatever it is, I think a single person's journey can influence other people. There are many times I've interviewed people, and this is not something that I intended, but because of the things that they said, there are people who said, I was so inspired by something that someone said, and it could be a film star, it could be somebody. Like they could say, how they handle failure, or how they look at success, or whatever it is, But because the thing is, everything is so magnified when somebody says it or details something, as opposed to you just knowing that I have failed, but you don't know why. So I think that interpretation and all that is a very valid thing, because whether it's whether you're talking about Ram or Krishna or like a film star or Siddharth Kumar, I think everybody's life is a very valid jumping off point for introspection.
Yeah, it's so true, because we always look at where people have reached. My father used to tell me, don't look at where people are, look at how they reach there.
Yeah.
Because that is the journey that you should learn and be inspired about.
Yeah.
So I feel that for me, and what you're doing is, I think what you're doing is what you love to do. You love to meet people, you talk to them, you try to understand how their lives have been, it adds so much to your life, it automatically adds to somebody else's life. Yeah. So I think it's a great thing. And today, I'm glad that I'm talking to you, because normally I've never spoken about these things. I've never spoken about, because I never thought, because I decided I need to be behind the camera and I should just put my point forward and my story will tell.
Right.
But now with this journey with Swastik, I felt the need that I should come out and speak to some people and talk about, the stories and the impact, because the medium has changed. The world is changing, and I think our stories in this noise have tremendous amount of relevance. And relevance is not an event or a weekend. I think relevance of this has to be lived. It has to be something that needs to be done on an everyday basis.
Yeah, lived or even thought about. Like, for example, when you tell me that that whole incident about Ram going to the forest is about somebody setting an example, it's a perspective.
Yeah.
And the minute you give a perspective, I think it's very interesting, because then you're no longer saying, okay, do this, but you're looking at it as a series of psychological incidents that okay, this led to this, this led to this, this led to this, and therefore this happened. And I think that becomes more of what it's relevant to today's times, where we tend, because of science and technology and information, everything is a Google search, right? It's like we want to know why. What is this? Why is this happening? We have so much information. And I think maybe today this is the only way we can approach these, because if you just say, which is not to say that I'm against faith, but if you just say, okay, this happened, you have to take it at face value, or that happened,
doesn't work.
Then some people may not relate to it.
No, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
If someone tells me, my whole family, like, I belong to a very orthodox means believers. We are UPite families, brought up in Calcutta. My father was a professor of accounts in St. Xavier's College, Calcutta, taught there for 45 years. Very respected personality in the city. I'm a teacher's son, as I say. And, for me, it was always about, I was quite a rebel because I never followed any of the rituals because we were just told that do it, and I would ask why.
Yeah.
And nobody would really answer it
Yeah.
because nobody really knew it.
Yeah.
So when I got into this world of these stories, I only answered the why. So why do you do Ram Ram Satya Hai before when a person dies and you walk? Why do you say Ram Ram Satya Hai? Why did Ram do this? Not just this. Like, for example, if you look at Ram's actions, much later, when he's gone to Lanka, he's there. He's meeting Sita for the first time.
Right.
He hears sniggers among people talking about her purity. And it's not like whether Ram believed in Sita. People keep saying different point of views that, why did he not trust his wife? He trusted his wife. Of course he trusts his wife. He lived barefoot for 14 years. He's traveled from, from where to where,
Yeah.
picked up a team of Vanars to eventually defeat the biggest king whose address also people did not know. Even Hanumanji had to figure out where Ravan lives, and he's gone and defeated him and got his wife back. So the love for Ram and Sita need not be explained because they've been through everything. But when you're a king, when you are a leader, your actions can be questioned, and of course it can be questioned. People can always agree to disagree. That's fine. That's perfect. That's life. You can't agree with everybody. You can't disagree with everybody. But if you look at it from his point of view, the same person who left for his father, the same person, does an Agni Pariksha not just in Lanka. When he comes back over here, he goes down in disguise and sees a dhobi.
Yeah.
And I look at a dhobi possibly as a parallel to the lowest common denominator in society.
Right.
So when a dhobi is talking, don't take it literally. I don't take it literally like a dhobi is talking. For me, it's like, okay, that means it's widespread.
It's widespread, yeah. Like as in it's the masses.
It's the masses.
Yeah,
It's widespread.
Yeah.
So what does he do? So whether he also wanted to leave. He also wanted to leave with Sita. It was definitely a discussion that would have happened, and that's what I have shown. That they discussed, because Sita also was not just a girl who would just be told. She belonged to a world which was far more knowledgeable and well read. Mithila was said to be a cultural capital.
Yeah.
Where huge amount of debates on Indian Vedic things used to happen at that point in time. And she was herself quite a learned person, as well as she's learned being a warrior as well. It's not like she did not know half the things, and she was just one girl who was told that, okay, fine, you can go now. And she chose to go with Ram. That was her choice.
Yeah.
So when leaving Ram, how could that not be her choice? So I question things like this. I think of characters as per their actions, and I try to make them relevant in today's times, going by what we feel is the right note for the story. I think that's how I keep looking at this world and these characters and the values that come through it, and why this
and
happened.
I think that's necessary because it's there is always going to be one section of people who who have what I call, not in a bad way, but they just implicitly believe that all this has happened and therefore I should just believe that, and that's very valid, right? But there's another section where if you don't interpret, where if you don't take it in a relevant manner, they'll be like, oh man, who's going to do this, or who's going to do that, or why would that really do you really think somebody did this? Did you really think there's a flying machine or whatever it is, right? So once this is a way you can target that segment as well as this segment, which is going to question everything. And I think that's really interesting. Okay, I can understand the attraction of the Ramayan, Mahabharat, all these things, because these are very common stories. These are widely read stories. These are popular stories. They don't need you to kind of advertise much. But how did you say, let me do something on Shani? Like, that's not something that one usually comes across, right? Because how did that happen?
Yeah, because I felt that, and as I was, or Mahabharat also has chapters where Shani is, so as you go deeper, you start thinking about, and we keep hearing, right, people telling me, aapka Shani chal raha hai.
Something.
I'm sure somebody would have told you also, na, aapki साढ़े सती hai, iski ye hai. So this time is the worst time of your life, and you have to be very conscious, because, and I just think that why would any god be created for the purpose of making people's life miserable?
Yeah.
That why just made me keep on, and we keep on debating why would this happen? Why would you come in to do destruction?
Yeah.
You will always come in for a purpose. So
Yeah, because
what is
he was
the
a god and not an asur. So
Yeah, he's the
it's
god.
not a
And whose son? Surya's son. He's born out of the reflect. So sun and shadow, right? It's sunlight and darkness, right? He was born out of chaya, the shadow.
Yeah.
The only thing that can stand against the sun is a shadow,
Yeah.
right? And he was the son of chaya, whose was his mother, and he was born out of a shadow.
Yeah.
And if you look at anybody's astrological charts, and you'll always see Shani and Surya having, and a lot of astrologers can talk about all this, and we did that also to come to the story.
You spoke to astrologers?
Yeah, of course. For Shani, we needed to understand why these conflicts. So, and first, why was this god created, and with the purpose that to destroy anybody's life? But no, I think with all the discussions that we had, we finally reached a point that, Shani is not here to make your life miserable. He's here to get you on track.
Okay.
Get you on track, give you your due. So there is somebody, you keep doing X, Y, Z in your life, who's giving you your due. Whether the due is good or bad, depending on your karmas. So we came up with this line ki karm phal data Shani.
Okay.
It was karm phal data Shani, and it always said, and we all use this line, Vinod Sharma, our writer, कि मार्ग पर आ जाओ, अन्यथा मैं तुम्हें मार्ग पे ले आऊंगा.
So come to the path, or I'll bring you.
I'll bring you to the path. Either you come to the path, or I'll bring you to the path. So it was very clearly to give people their due, get them to the right path. So if you see, and if you talk to people after Shani phase gets over, you will see people feel far more relieved.
Okay.
They say I was going here and there, and then I got completely, this happened, that happened, these issues happened. But now I'm feeling like I'm on path. And I think that is what happens. And now how do you tell that story? Because it's not a book that you're writing. You have to tell a story on screen, and you need to build characters, worlds, emotions, and show it in a way that is engaging, and keep giving the thought at the end of it. That's what we do all the time. So we needed to understand the astrological world. So, we got in an astrologer, one of the writers, Dilip Jha, he's an astrologer also, and he's a very known writer also in our industry. Utkarsh, Vinod, and our researchers, that time who was researching on that. So every time we have different people on research as well. So we sat and they worked out. I did not know much about the astrological ways, but about astrologically, who is in sync with who are friends, who are enemies, who don't come together, which is not very limited knowledge for me from that point in time, from that perspective. But to understand human conflicts, to show why it would have happened, we started discussing all of that, and that's how we told a larger story about how this boy, and we started young also. We showed Shani as a young boy, which is again never been shown. But does anybody grow up and is born old? It does not happen like that. Unless you're Draupadi, you emerge from fire. You emerge from fire fully grown up. Apart from that, so we explored every detail to tell people on an everyday basis about the values that Shani wants you to have in your life. With that core lens, we start writing, and that's how we go about.
That's the ideation of what it is.
Yeah, that's how it.
But there are lots of over years when you read about the older versions of epics and how they've come through, especially in some epics, there is a lot of material that is either that was a little more sexual in nature, which has over time been transformed into a little, how do I put this, a little purer version maybe. There's a little more violence that probably has, so there's a lot of the epics. What I find very interesting about the writing then was that they really did not say this is a good action or bad action or whatever it is, right? They wrote openly about, let's say, things like lust, which everything is part of human behavior.
Yeah.
So they just accepted everything as part of a human behavior. But over time, let's say some kind of censorship happened in certain quarters, and now when we read it, we don't realize, and when we suddenly see an older version and we see, oh my God, like all that happened. How did you deal with those issues?
I feel definitely it's an issue. I feel there should be certification than censorship, personally.
Okay.
You can certify, it might not appeal to this, it might appeal to that person, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But because I started in television, that medium, it goes to every family in
yeah.
our country. Now, as as a maker, you also need to think about, if it's going into everybody's bedrooms, where do you need to draw a line?
Yeah.
Not for, because if it was a documentary, I would have made it, right?
Yeah.
I'm not documenting a story. I'm telling you a story which should be engaging you and your family. So the moment I'm thinking like Disney and talking to the family, I need to apply some filters.
Yes.
Irrespective of, what it is like. So for me, it's more family-oriented viewing, because the purpose is far bigger than your depiction at this point in time, because the medium demands that.
Yeah.
If you're making a movie with a adult certification which goes to that, I think that should be perfectly fine to show it, because it eventually depends on the storyteller whether you want to show it
Yeah.
or not. And
Yeah.
if you want to show it, why are you wanting to show it? Whether if you're imagining a Vedic Lanka, which is said to be that India was scientifically advanced at that point in time, and it makes it's written. It's not like we imagined it yesterday. It has been written. So if we really want to believe in it, that yes, why do we need to question that? My take, that we had a glorious past. So I'm proud of it, and I'm very happy that we had a glorious past. So how do I get that to life?
That's the main concern.
For me, it's the most important thing, because if it's written, it's not like we wrote it. It has been written. Now, whether we believe it or not is entirely up to us.
No, that's a different thing. I was
Yeah.
talking about some of the, like you said, this television and mass medium. And so even when grandmothers are telling or grandfathers are telling their story to their grandchildren, they would not want to talk about certain aspects of it, because it's a more adult kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the children don't, they would not understand or something like
Yeah.
that. So I was like, how do you deal with those aspects?
So, like, for example, like when the Draupadi sequence was happening at the end in the Mahabharat, it is written like Draupadi swore revenge and said, "I'll wash my hair with your blood."
Yeah, with Dushasana's blood.
Now look at the conflict, right?
Yeah.
It is like washing my head with your blood. Now you can say showing blood, washing hair, will that appeal to the family? And
Yeah.
do you want to really tone that down? For me, I don't compromise on the core of the story.
Right.
If it's the core of the story, that she has to wash her hair with the blood, because that is what she.
That is the avenging.
That is the vengeance that she wanted, and that is the day she will tie her hair.
Yeah.
It's such an important personal point for a woman who's been disrobed in public.
Yeah.
Then we show it. Definitely, we show it with the blood falling, with doing, because the important part is the emotion.
Yeah.
That's the important part. If it was just a action sequence, which with television limitations we can't exactly do it with in the given time and all of that, then those are areas that definitely we feel that no, this is not needed. We can avoid this, not for any other reason, that it's not going in with the flow. So there are various reasons why we take this call.
Fair enough.
But not compromising on the core of it.
Yeah, actually, more than the emotion, it's also the psychology behind the emotion.
Yeah. So true. So true.
One thing is, whether it's Ramanand Sagar or whether it's your series or even the slight glimpses that we've gotten of Ramayan, of whatever is being made right now, there's always a set pattern to which the characters are depicted. Like royals are dressed in silks, and they have gold jewelry, and there's a certain a standard format, right? Have you ever thought of breaking that format, or is there something about it that this is how a Raja looks and a Rani looks, and let's stick to that representation and not change that? Because you're doing so many other changes, you're inquiring into so many other things, interrogating this, that. Have you interrogated about the presentation of these people?
A lot. For me, when you're making something relevant for today's viewers, when they watch the series or a story, they should feel like, whatever the characters or Radha Krishnan, whatever Krishnan wore, I don't think anybody's ever had shown Krishnan without a mukut.
Yeah.
But with Radha Krishnan, I used a pagdi. there were a lot of discussions about, because you are not telling me a story or an image that I have not seen. There's calendar art in my house. I've been growing up on these imagery of God looks like this. Raja Ravi Verma has made paintings about, that's the legacy that it runs down to everybody's household. That kings have a mukut.
A crown,
A crown, a crown. So, but with Radha Krishnan, definitely we changed on the look front. For example, the mukut went. He wore a pagdi. And not just that, the way they are styled, the kind of jewelry they wear. I think the Radha Krishnan jewelry was designed by Shivopriya. Very great, what a great artist she is. And her jewelry with that flower jewelry, you see everywhere in the world. So, it's about you have to stick to the core, yet innovate. I think change is, in this space, my understanding says that, your core has to be intact. The music of Radha Krishna, if you just don't look at the visual and hear the audio, or a Mahabharat, or any of Ramayan, when you just hear the audio, you will not feel it in the 80s, or you will not feel it in the 90s. You feel it is today's, but it still has the core and the essence and the emotion of the old, because that's the reason why I'm coming to watch your story.
Right.
I'm coming to watch a Ramayan because I want to get that feeling, right? So I try to keep the core intact, and I try to modernize in the way a Bhishma looks, or in the way a Krishna looks, or every character, when it's a Draupadi or any show, any story. I feel that we do a lot of work in making the change, but I don't see that change can happen overnight. I feel change happens in steps. You suddenly can't change around and say, okay, fine, this is how it will be, and audiences are not going to accept it, because these stories, they already have a preconceived notion. So you slowly, how you look at 20 and how you look at 40. For example, the core remains the same, but just the look changes. So it's more in that space where the innovation and the interpretation of what the Radha Krishna world would be, for example. How can you get that calendar art to life in a way that people have never seen before? Same with Mahabharat. So I think we need to visually definitely enhance, and I think the Ramayan, whatever little I've also seen, looks really good, and I think Ranbir Kapoor can do anything, as I always feel, and I'm really looking forward to it myself, because these are stories that the world needs to watch. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting point that you make, because it's I would think that a lot of the representation that we see today, the visual representation, basically comes from one man, Ravi Verma, because the art that he made became calendars, and the calendars became so widely distributed, like north, south, east, west,
everywhere.
That became the
that is the reference point.
That is the reference point for. So to break that is very interesting, because you're like, okay, I need to. This is how generations of Indians have seen Ram or Krishna or whatever it is. But how do I break that? If supposing, let's say Valmiki is saying Ram wore not a crown that was triangular, but let's say he wore a gold band around his head. I'm just saying, But then maybe that's the actual thing. But because of the Ravi Verma thing, the imagery is so different. So that's itself a discussion that might take several days.
Because when you see his paintings, they are so subtle. They are so beautifully done. And one thing starts with an imagery, and then people build their own imagery. Right? So if you have seen Krishna in a particular color, I keep saying that, and I'm being very honest, you try removing the more punk from Krishna and make the audiences believe he's Krishna. They will not accept it. It is just a more punk. If you look at it contextually.
You have to have the peacock feather.
You have to have it. If Duryodhana wears white, I doubt, in a mass space I'm talking about. There are certain things that I feel audiences, because why are we telling this story? We are telling it for you. They need to accept, because my purpose is not to change Krishna. My purpose is to make you fall in love with the Krishna you love anyways. So then I'm only trying to enhance it. I'm not trying to tell people I know more than you. Oh, this has been written. I know this text better. That way, though, there are so many things that you can do. It doesn't end, because our history is more than 10,000-20,000 years old. But if your purpose is to make me as a viewer feel great about the Krishna I love, or this character of Ram, which was so relevant and relatable, then why are you so well bent on changing him? You should rather enhance his imagery.
Yeah.
So people start to love him more because they anyways love him.
Yeah.
They are not watching you because they need to fall in love with your Ram. They anyways love Ram.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it's about whether they love your Ram or not.
Yeah.
That is what we need to work on.
Yeah, that's the really interesting thing. It's been a really interesting journey, and talking to you has been very interesting because typically what happens is we live in times that are so I don't know whether to use the word scary, but it's a little difficult to make one's interpretation of anything. Because we all know about what happened during Padmavat, and there are other things, and there are different groups that claim ownership to certain things. Like you said, it's impossible. It is very much possible that one evening, while Krishna was changing the peacock feather was not there or something like that. But when you are showing it, that is such an iconic thing that it's like you kind of you cannot do that. So what so that this actually can go on. We can keep talking about this for hours.
Please,
It's
fine. It's fine. Just talk.
But I think we have to put an end to this. But it's been great getting to know your process, your research, and I think I would like to just finish by asking. Okay, you started with satellite television, which is Star Plus and all that. Where does Swastik now plan to take this? Have you decided that this is the main space you're going to operate in, which is the stories of Indian, whether you call it mythology or history, that's the space you're going to operate in?
Yeah.
Okay. So where are you going to take this forward? Do you see yourself, doing a YouTube series, for instance? What is the...
No, that's a very, very interesting question. I think that's very important because once you are in this journey of constantly telling stories, at some point, like I just turned 18. So Swastik is now 18 years old. So it's been so I feel that I need to make some adult-like decisions. And more than that, what I mean by that is at 18 now with Swastik, I've just changed the thought from Swastik Productions. I made it Swastik Stories. And there's a reason why I've done that. Because for me, companies will come and go, eras will fade. All of this is an up and down, is a cyclical process, but stories will remain.
Yeah.
So I changed the company's name to Swastik Stories with the idea that this company should always remember that, it was formed with the idea of telling stories.
Yeah.
And you should keep telling stories in the times that you're in. So that will constantly make you relevant.
Yeah.
And stories of India, because somewhere I feel that my kids are growing up, I need to connect them with our culture. I feel this mediums today, technology is really empowering. You don't need to only be in one long format. So with Swastik Stories, we are building a cultural ecosystem. It's not just about, so it will be television, it will be films, it will be theatre, it will be, ground.
Okay.
It will be an app for our kids to learn Indian stories because our stories have so much value.
Yeah.
And I feel that generations are growing up without having any connection to their culture.
Yeah.
And there's a great, and since we've done it for 15 years, it's about we already have lived these stories and we are constantly learning. It's not like after so many years also I keep listening to a new story every day.
Yeah.
And it just does not end. And I'm being very honest about it. Every time I listen, I said, this also happened. Okay, where is this written?
Yeah.
Oh, this is there. Oh, okay. And then there are versions, there are interpretations. So I feel that Swastik, going forward, we go to the viewer wherever they are. We don't tell them to come to us. We go to wherever we are. We've got our own Swastik Stories YouTube. We are getting into a fast channel network where, we'll take Indian stories to the world, to every Indian across the world through the digital platform. We will be going into theatre. We're already working on all of this that I'm telling you. We'll be into movies where we'll tell stories also, but build an ecosystem where, next 50 years when a child is born and it grows up, he knows a destination where he can learn about Indian stories and get entertained and understand the value. Because whether it's a mantra or a chant or where they all have psychological and everyday value that people can derive through it. And if it can be passed on, I think it's a legacy journey for me, to put it in a nutshell. Now it's about, building this in a way that for generations we'll be proud of our stories, we'll be proud of our roots. At least we'll get to know who we are and where we could be. And I think it's really, really deep, and it just does not end. So that's why I keep saying that for me, Swastik Stories journey now is to build this cultural storytelling space. We are launching our fast channel now. We are launching an original called Hamara Vinayak, again saying that God is a friend today. So that's the take of it. It's a modern day story where Ganesha comes into youngsters' life and tells them the values of Ganesha, but all told in a way that is relevant to the youth. Then audio stories. I think now we are really taking this deeper and deeper and deeper, and trying to get the ancient Indian ethos, morals, values, stories through comic books to every zone that would be of value to others. That's the journey for us.
That's a very interesting journey, and I hope the next 18 years I would like to interview again.
Thank you so much for coming.
And see what has happened.
It's really been a very good discussion today, because I was not even expecting that someone would be that knowledgeable to talk about these details. And actually we can talk for hours about a lot of things, because you are yourself very knowledgeable. You've read a lot about these things.
It interests me because for me, you grow up with these stories, and I've grown up with interpretations of these stories. So even today, like last year, I somebody gifted me an illustrated Mahabharat, where they had not only written the story, but they had also the people who published it. They had dug up. They had pictures of, let's say, some terracotta pottery from the Indus Valley civilization that depicted a particular version of this god or this Surya or something like that. And it interests me because stories interest me, psychology interests me. I'm always interested in knowing why somebody did something, and more than anything else, I think subtext interests me. So I think that's what it is. But thank you so much for talking to me. And
thank you so much.
I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Darling 3D Diwali deals. நீங்கள் வாங்கும் ஒவ்வொரு பொருளுக்கும் 360 deals.
Aha, no compromise. உங்க சைடுலயும் எங்க சைடுலயும். It's a GT promise.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
MCR Pure Cotton Club, formals and casual shirts.